The Carpenter and the Cradle, a History Weaver Adventure, Book 1, by Connie Worden, read by the author. Chapter 7. Ko went completely limp and pretended unconsciousness before the men started onto the bridge. It was a huge trunk, wide and smooth, but it was still necessary for the men to cross single file. Instead of the 4 who had been carrying him side by side up to that point, 2 men transferred him onto their shoulders, still holding him by his wrists and ankles, but not as tightly as the other men. With his eyes closed, Ko knew he'd have to gauge the approximate midpoint of the bridge simply from memory, but it was a chance he'd have to take. Worth the risk to feign unconsciousness and take the men more by surprise when he suddenly shot into action. He felt the grip on his wrists and ankles loosen as the men focused on maintaining their balance across the bridge. When it seemed that they must be about halfway across, Ko twisted sharply and suddenly with all his strength. He was falling, but the feel of the hand on his ankles and a bellow of surprise and rage in his ears told him he was taking at least one of the men with him. The hand on his ankles disappeared as it flailed in the air instead. Good. Hope he hits a nice big rock. It wasn't so much a thought as the emotion of an instant, not one that could be indulged, as Ko needed every thought of the moment to be about surviving the fall into the river. Feet first, he commanded his body, and his body responded correctly, thanks to that slowing down effect time takes on in a moment of crisis. The chilly water would have caused him to expel the giant mouthful of air he'd gulped before the impact, if he wasn't prepared for it. Instead, smoothly his feet just glanced on the mud of the river bottom and propelled him forward underwater in one quick motion. He hadn't gone off the bridge at the very deepest place, but it was deep enough. He'd be fine now, the hardest part was over. He didn't need his hands and feet free to glide snake-like, smoothly swimming under the water, letting the current carry him along. He only hoped the man who he'd taken in with him didn't know how to swim, and that the other men would be convinced that he, Ko, had drowned, or be too occupied trying to rescue their companion to worry about going after Ko. Coral Lyons opened her eyes and stared up at the ceiling of the travel trailer, mere inches from her nose. Being the youngest of the 4 kids in her family, she'd been elected to take the top bunk in the tiny bedroom of the travel trailer where her family was living for the time being. The time being meant until the work was finished on the old barn that they were planning on turning into their family home. She rolled over and felt the thud of Hope's foot kicking her in her back through the piece of plywood and thin piece of foam that was the top bunk. Hope was always ornery when she first woke up. Apparently, Coral's movements had woken her. She wouldn't have appreciated the early morning wake-up call of the jostling from the top bunk that unavoidably shook the bunk below, and the whole trailer. The 2 boys, Rex and Will, were sleeping in a tent. Coral half wished the girls had spoken for the tent instead of the bunks of the travel trailer. Mom was stretched out on a mattress in the canopy of the pickup, and probably had the best bed out of them all. At least she didn't have to share it with someone who would put a foot in her back just for shifting her position. And speaking of Mom, here she was, her face poking through the door of the travel trailer, with an unreasonably bright smile on her face. Morning, people, Coral thought in disgust. Oh, good. You are awake. I thought you might be. I saw the trailer shaking around, so I knew someone was moving in here. Funny how every little motion makes the trailer move, isn't it? Good morning, Hope. Time to get up. It's already after 7. Daylight's wasting. The boys are just getting up, too. We'd better get up and have some breakfast and get started. In answer, Hope only rolled over and pulled the blankets over her head. Now, come on, girl. Don't be like that. Like it or not, we have work to do, and I need your help in doing it, all of you. Even you, Hope. Mom's smile had faded, and a serious look and tone replaced it. There was just a slight tinge of urgency below the surface of Mom's words, but Coral knew it was there. June shot another furtive look over her shoulder. July nudged her in the back with her elbow. Would you stop that? If anyone sees us, we'll just look like we're off for a little jaunt somewhere. Nothing out of the ordinary, but you make us look so suspicious every time you look around like that, July hissed at her. You don't think we'll look suspicious anyway with our 2 loaded bags of groceries? They could be anything. We could have any number of reasons for carrying a couple of bags of something. No, I don't think that makes us look suspicious. But for sure we'll look suspicious with you looking like a guilty criminal. You have such a poker face. I can't help it. Well, just stop looking back like that. I'll try, June said as she gave another guilty glance over her shoulder. July hit her in the back again with her elbow. Sorry, it's a habit. I don't even realize I'm doing it. I can't help it. You can too. Just try. July clipped her with another elbow, seeing June's head, making a motion to look back. Like you jabbing me every other second won't look odd. All right, never mind. I think we're out of seeing range of the house now anyway. Yeah, but we still might end up getting busted. Of course, Mr. Wu might wonder why we stocked up on all that junk food at his corner store. I thought, hopefully, that would look less weird than you and I buying a week's worth of groceries at the grocery store. Of course, everyone at the grocery store would know us too. At least it's not that weird for us to buy a lot of junk food. Maybe just weird for us to buy this much all at once. Oh well, it was the best we could do. I hope Georgie doesn't mind living on junk food for a week. Or a summer. I guess she'll have to, whether she minds or not. At that point, they reached the old treehouse that stood almost in the woods, which marked the border of the Eagles' property. July tested the boards nailed to the tree trunk that were used as the ladder. They feel all right, I guess. Little loose. The boards turn a bit, but I don't think they're going anywhere. Anyway, at least we weren't brave enough to build our treehouse very high, so it's not a long climb up. And if I fall, it's not a long fall. Here goes nothing. I'll climb part way up, you pass me the bags, and I'll try to poke them through the opening that used to be our trapdoor. I wonder what happened to the actual door. July gingerly rested her weight on the ladder, and clinging with both hands, steadily made her way up a few rungs. Okay, I think I can reach from here. Pass me a bag, June, she called. June complied with the order, and July slid it through the opening in the floor of the treehouse until it rested near the edge, where Georgie would be able to retrieve it, without endangering life or limb by climbing all the way in. They repeated the process with the second one, and the task was finished. July climbed down, and the two girls prepared to leave. Hey! They heard, called softly from the bushes of the woods immediately behind the treehouse. July elbowed June in the back again. Did you hear that? She asked in a low voice. Yes, you don't have to keep hitting me. I'm going to have bruises, June said, annoyed, as they moved back toward the bushes to investigate the source of the hay. Georgie's face emerged from the bushes, followed shortly by the rest of her. Just making sure you two were all alone, she said. June burst into explanation. Georgie, I tried not to tell July about where you were, but she woke up that night when you were leaving and she made me tell her. She knew something was going on anyway, so it wouldn't have done any good for me to deny it. So I thought she might as well help me get food to you. Georgie shrugged. It doesn't matter. It's fine for the two of you to know. It's not like either of you will turn me into the authorities like any adults would think they have to. No, we won't, July said quickly. June told me that you think you'd be in danger if you had to go back home. Georgie nodded solemnly. I would. I don't just think it. I know I would. But no one, no adults I mean, or not the authorities anyway, would believe me if I told them about it. Georgie, July said, hesitating a little, do you think you know who hit you with their car that day? Georgie nodded again. Yes, I do. I caught a glimpse of him. I'm sure it was my stepfather.